Kia ora koutou, another video for RJers. So, grizzled walrus time again. Now, it just occurred to me that I often recommend deep breathing, which is a sort of integral part of the antidote technique. That's another video if you want to check that one out. And I don't kind of explain about deep breathing, and deep breathing isn't necessarily that obvious to people. So I thought I'd do a quick video on breathing techniques. Okay, we all breathe. So why do we need to watch videos on it? There's different ways of breathing, and essentially there's three kind of common ways of breathing. And they are as follows. There is shallow breathing, which is, so the lungs, people don't realize this, but the lungs are massive. They actually come right up into the shoulder area. So some people breathe in a very, very shallow way. So this is what they call actually clavicular breathing. So the clavicle, I'm just going to, don't worry, I'm not getting frisky with you here. I'm going to show you my clavicle. So the clavicle is this bony bit that you can kind of feel on either side, the collarbone. So you can feel it just to either side of your throat, and it's quite thick bone. So the collarbone. So clavicular breathing is very shallow breathing. So you're breathing into that area. The collarbone is moving, but not much else is moving. Okay, and the shoulders might actually kind of rise and fall a bit as you breathe. This kind of breathing is likely to be very rapid. It's going to be very shallow, and this is the kind of breathing that we do when we're very anxious. Okay, and it can become a habitual way of breathing, and if we breathe in this way, we will become anxious by a process called biofeedback. The body notices that we're breathing in the way that we would when we're in a fight or flight situation, or flight or freeze, and actually kind of stimulates that part of the nervous system to prepare us for fight or flight. So it'll actually make us nervous. So as retroactive jealousy is a form of obsessive compulsive disorder, and that is an anxiety disorder. Anything we can do to reduce our background anxiety, the better. So the background anxiety is the kind of level of anxiety that we're feeling all the time, okay, regardless of what's going on. Okay. Now, in the natural world, or even for animals like dogs, unless a dog's traumatized, Fido's background anxiety level is going to be probably zero. He'll go from completely, zonked out to tense when there's a knock on the door or a sound, a potential burglar, and then when he realizes that there's no threat, he'll go back down to zero again. But as human beings, we tend to have a raised level of background anxiety, and if you have that, you're more likely to breathe more shallowly, and if you're more likely to breathe shallowly, you're more likely to be anxious. Hence, it's called biofeedback. It's a loop. We all know about loops if we suffer with retroactive jealousy. So notice. So what I suggest is now, as you're watching this video, just notice how you're breathing. Are you breathing into that part of you? Just your upper shoulders. It probably doesn't feel very nice, but you probably would have also got used to it. Okay. So the next one, I'm just going to kind of button myself back up again because I feel I'm being unseemly, is intercostal breathing, which is kind of a fancy way of saying ribs. Intercostal means between the ribs. So this is chest breathing. So you're breathing into your chest. This is very common. This is what most people do this. Okay, so you're breathing into your chest, and your chest will rise and fall as you breathe. Okay, and that's better than clavicular breathing, but it's still not great. Okay, so the best breathing is deep breathing, belly breathing. So what you want to do is imagine that your belly is like a balloon, and as you breathe in, fill it up. So a good way to kind of start learning belly breathing. So first of all, check out which kind of breathing you do. Notice what you're doing right now, and then it's actually quite a good idea to do an experiment with each one. So you can pause this video. So what you can do is just give yourself a few, not a very long time, 30 seconds of the clavicular breathing, the really shallow breathing that's kind of up here in the shoulders and the collarbone, and just notice how that feels. And then pause the video again and just experiment with the chest breathing. See if that's what you normally do or if that's a bit different. And then last one, experiment with the chest breathing, the belly breathing, the abdominal breathing. So okay, what I suggest for that is is to breathe in through your nose when you do that. Again, when we're relaxed, we tend to breathe in through the nose. When we're anxious, in fight or flight, we breathe through the mouth. Although it can be quite good to release the air through the mouth. That's kind of cool. You can do that. So when you practice the belly breathing, what I want you to do is a very long, very slow count of 5. Breathing in, hold for 1, breathe out for a very long, very slow count of 5. And what I recommend is to do no more than 5 of those breaths at a time if you're not used to it, because it will make you feel a bit odd if you're not used to that. And it's not because anything's wrong, it's just because your lungs have got used to processing oxygen and carbon monoxide in a certain way, and if you breathe differently, they have to readjust, so you can feel a little bit lightheaded or a bit dizzy. So that's why 5 is the key number. Breathe in for 5, hold for 1, breathe out for 5. Don't get it the wrong way around. And when you practice it, do it for no more than 5 breaths at a time, and do it about 5 times a day. And you can actually change your breathing pattern from from shallow breathing to deep breathing by gradual practice. Okay. So what I suggest is that when you do the antidote technique for retroactive jealousy, is use this kind of deep breathing with that. Okay, so you're breathing in for 5, hold it for 1, breathing out for 5, and you're doing about 5 breaths. Okay. Now, if you don't practice this when you're in a relaxed state, it's going to be quite hard to draw on it when you're in a crisis. People always say, if I get in a really bad way, I will do X, Y, and Z. But if you haven't practiced X, Y, and Z, you're probably not going to do it in a crisis. If you're not going to do something new when you're in a relaxed state, then you sure as hell probably won't do it in a crisis. So, excuse me. So practice this when you're chilled. Okay. So all these breathing techniques, they all work with the process of biofeedback. So deep breathing is the breathing that we do when we're very relaxed. If you do that breathing, it tricks the mind, or more accurately, the nervous system, into thinking that you're relaxed, and then it starts to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which makes you relaxed. Okay, so this, although it's very kind of simple, there's no rocket science to this. It's really quite easy stuff. It's just a matter of practice. It can be quite profound. So there's 2 things going on here. So there's emergency breathing and learning that when you do the antidote technique. But also, if you find that you're a chest breather, or even more so if you're a clavicular breather, then I would strongly recommend that you retrain yourself to become a chest breather. Sorry, not a chest breather. Why do I keep saying that? A belly breather. And that will have an ongoing effect in reducing your general and background levels of anxiety, which is good. Okay, so you don't have to have RJ to use these techniques. These are universal techniques. We're just applying them for RJ, and and you can probably see the logic now of why we include this in the antidote technique, because what we're trying to do is to reprogram the brain from kind of thinking that we're in danger, thinking we're in crisis, and stimulating all that anxiety response around the RJ. And actually just replacing that with a relaxation response. So we're kind of doing a complete trick, hack really, on the nervous system. So I hope you find that helpful. Sorry I didn't think about doing that before really. I guess I'm so used to kind of things like breathing techniques and stuff that I sometimes forget that they're not necessarily that obvious. Let me know how you get on when you practice them, and but don't underestimate them. They can change your life for the better. I hope that's helpful. Rangimarie.